you're training your staff on customer service interactions, give them the guidelines, use the same training that you would do in other situations, whether that's role playing and prepare them for these situations, because no matter what, those emotions are going to start running when you're in any conflict. So the better prepared we are for these conversations and how to handle them, the better that they are going to be handled from a customer service standpoint. And then secondly, when your employees are in those situations, make sure that you as the leader, as a supervisor, manager, owner, are there to support and back up your employee. Instead of going, not supporting them at all and going in a different direction, because that's just going to blow up in your face and embarrass the employee. And, that's just not going to be good.
And we see that especially, I think, in some other areas around the state where there isn't community support for the mask mandate. Mm-hmm. It can very quickly get to a very contentious relationship. And so that's where it's very important that the managers and supervisors step in and take the heat off their employees.
So one thing that I've been seeing a lot of, and I think this goes into what you guys are saying, is the messaging about alternative options doesn't just start at the complaint. Like I've seen it on Facebook. I've seen it on, I had to call Target for something to see if they had, and just in the reel waiting to hit the buttons, they were like, if you don't want to wear a mask, please check out these other options. There's a lot of messaging that goes on long before you get an angry person at the door.
Yes. The more advanced notice you can provide to your patrons, whether it be a voicemail, signs outside, notices on your websites, a lot of employers are putting their mask policies on the website. And we saw that even before the statewide mask mandate went into it.
And it's also, it's just reminding people as well, not to just jump to conclusions. Maybe somebody really can't wear a mask, and to be able to approach that, it's seeking to understand and not jumping into a judgment.
And so one thing that you were talking about earlier, Tricia, kind of reminded me of back in my bartending days, which was long before COVID, is making sure that the owners, managers, whatever, have your back.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Right? Like whenever I had to tell someone that was enough, they're not going to either treat me that way or not get another drink from me or whatever it was, I knew that the bar owners had my back. It helped that the bar owners were my parents. But it was...
let's not talk about the fact you were 8 years old.
So my sister was younger, and she would completely rule the bar playing Ship Cat Crew and all that, because she was a card shark, and she would make money on all of these unsuspecting people. And then they even started they knew, and it was a thing about who could beat her. I think she paid for her college on duping 20-year-old guys who thought they could beat her. But it was that empowerment, knowing that if I said something, if they said, let me talk to your manager, then I'm like, sure. And the manager,
because that question's going to come up, is I want to talk to your manager. Right.
And so having that backup, I think both of those messages, while they are coming to a head with the mask mandates and COVID and things like that, are lessons that stretch long past whether or not you're wearing a mask.
Yes.
So dealing with problematic customers is, try and head off the problems, have backup with it. But what if the problem isn't external? What if the problem is
coworkers?
Yeah, whether it's mask or harassment or whatever. How can we help our employees? Because I'm always here oh my gosh, what if they don't say something and it just festers?
Well, and here it can actually fester.
Right? Right?
Yeah, I think that's where you don't, as much as possible, don't lay enforcement on your employees. Empower employees to go to managers about it and to say, hey, listen, I saw XYZ was not, wearing a mask, or they were wearing it and their nose isn't.
No, they were wearing a good chin strap.
Yeah. Like it's a chin hammock or something. And, or they aren't using Purell or things like that. And I think ways to deal with that is, one, you empower employees to talk to their supervisors. Also, make sure as the employer you have a lot of PPE around, whether it be for fellow employees or for clients and customers, to make sure they don't have the excuse, oh, I forgot it. So have spares sitting around, have Purell sitting around. Note in the bathrooms, if soap is out or Purell is out, that they should be contacting the manager. Tricia, do you have anything to add there?
No, I think in that specific situation, it is better just to funnel that information into a supervisor, whoever's responsible for that area. I do normally suggest that employees, when they're frustrated with another employee, have that direct conversation, because it's not, it's not building relationships and strengthening relationships if employee A is always running to the supervisor, and then the supervisor has to go to employee B and say, well, somebody came and talked to me about
You don't want the
this.
tattletale thing.
Right. So as much as we can coach individuals to have conversations with each other, the better. But when it gets to that, really, if they're uncomfortable doing so, then yes, go to your supervisor. And in these situations, it might be better.
So what I'm hearing first is create a culture where communication is important,
Yes.
both amongst each other and going up. But I remember back these many years ago, being a young attorney and, being like, oh my gosh, do I go to the head of the firm? Is it that big of a deal? Is it not? And is it always just go to the boss? Like, is there something that businesses can do so it's not always, because I know for us, I always say, oh, come to me, but what if I'm the problem?
So Jane, do you mind if I jump in on
You
there?
go.
So I think, one, leaders and supervisors, managers, leaders need to encourage that open communication with their employees and say, hey, is there anything that I can do to help you be more successful in your role? Are there any roadblocks I can help you remove? And once you start having that type of dialogue, you're opening that conversation up. So it's a two-way conversation. But there's definitely other things that maybe an employee just doesn't feel comfortable going to their supervisor because the supervisor is the problem, or doesn't have a relationship with another supervisor to go to, or it's a small organization that there is only one person to go to. And organizations can definitely put in other resources, which I know, Jane, I know you'd be love to chat about further. So I'm going to hand it off.
So that's just it. For the most part, whether if you have employee handbooks or if you just have freestanding policies, provide employees with multiple avenues to share their concerns. So you shouldn't just say, go to your manager. It should be a manager or, the shift supervisor, whatever the case may be. For a lot of our clients, even those that are small, that don't have an HR person or an HR department, we partner a lot with Lighthouse, which is a third-party reporting resource, and they have an incredibly affordable option for that. And employees can report via a toll-free number, an email address, the website. They can accommodate many different languages too. So even with non-English speaking employees, they have a safe option where they can voice any concerns. And then on the employer side, you can set it up to say, topics of this nature, go to these people within the organization or these outside partners that we have. Topics of this, complaints of this nature, go to these people, and on and on. And it's a wonderful resource. And it also demonstrates to employees that you are taking their concerns seriously enough that you will provide them with a confidential third-party resource to receive their complaints.
So one question we've been getting a lot lately at our firm is, all right, we have this person who's a problem. We do not want to continue to have this problem. And we think the best way to do that is to get rid of them. And they're always concerned, like, can I just go in and be like, pack up your stuff? In fact, don't even pack up your stuff. We'll pack it up. And don't let the door hit you on the way out. Or do they, do you have to document? Like, what do we do with these, problem employees that just don't, that are there? Like, do we have a duty to rehab?
Do you want to take that one, or do you want me to?
Well, I want to just touch on a little bit. I think that as leaders of an organization, I think it's important that you're communicating to make sure that you clearly set the expectations and that the employee has heard the expectations. We may have been communicating it consistently, but in a way that we want to hear it. It may not be in a way that our direct report is able to hear it or capable of hearing it, or from different personalities. So I think, one, I always say, you got to sleep. I got to sleep at night based on those decisions, right? So have I done everything I can do as a manager to help this person succeed? And if that answer is yes, then there are other steps that you can take, which I know, Jane, you want to take that?
Sure. So basically, if you're in Wisconsin, we're an at-will employment state. So employers and employees can end the employment relationship for any reason at any point in time that is not against the law, that doesn't violate the law or public policy. So you can terminate me because I'm wearing a green sweater, but you can't terminate me because I am this gender, this race, this age, and on.
But just because you're those things doesn't mean you can't be fired.
Correct. And so, when you're making those final calls, ideally you have expressed to this person some of the behavior performance problems. But sometimes, equally, you have to make decisions because economically things are tough for your organization. We've certainly seen
a little bit of that lately
this year. And so to make sure when you're communicating this message to employees that you do things in a humane manner, the single most important thing that we tell our employer clients is to treat your employees respectfully, communicate with them in a respectful manner. That's the single most important thing you can do from a risk mitigation standpoint with your employees. Depending on the situation, you might want to look at some type of separation agreement. If that's relevant to the situation where the employee waives claims against the organization, and in return, you give them some form of income continuation, you don't contest their application for unemployment or something like that. But the single most important thing is to treat them respectfully in that process, even if you're not doing a separation agreement, so that when you both are moving forward after this, as much as possible, there isn't ill will.
Jane, I've been doing some coaching on folks that have been let go. And those folks are like, they say, it feels like I just broke up with my boyfriend or my girlfriend. I feel rejected. I'm like, exactly. And that's how the feeling. So no matter what reason you're in that situation, it is handling it respectfully. And how would you want it to be handled if it was you? Because we're not always the best fit for our jobs. And we need to make those decisions and go separate ways. And that's okay, because we'll find that next path, right? But then you're going through the rejection and the grief and all those phases.
I have a friend who says, I don't fire people. I release them to find their passion and a better fit for their lives. I release them to do better things with them. Their skills.
To share their gifts elsewhere.
Right, exactly. That move my talents to South Beach. So to do a kind of a left-hand turn, because I know this is what Jeff was really interested in, because he he's a deep lover of holiday parties.
I am too. You know why, Jeff?
So am I.
Because I get so much work that comes out of it from harassment issues that I'm really busy January, February, March.
So true. And the most, I think one of my favorite ones that Tricia investigated was one following a holiday party, and one employee made a complaint about another employee. And the offending employee said, "I was so drunk, I don't know what I did." Not a defense. Let's just put it out there. That isn't a defense. The dog ate my homework, adult version.
But from an engagement perspective, yes. And for recognition, yes. Holiday parties are great. And there are guidelines that you can put into place to make them a good event and reduce your harassment complaints as well at the end of the night or the next day. You think about the location, think about how much alcohol is being served. And if alcohol is being served, do people have a responsible way of getting home? Are we all staying in a hotel at night? If so, I get more business. So
especially if you give employees separate rooms.
So with holidays, I feel like it's important. That's one thing that we talk about every year, is being very mindful that not everybody in the holidays celebrates the same holiday.
Yes.
Mhm.
Right. And so while Merry Christmas might be good for one, I have clients who are Muslim that they're like, I'll take a Merry Christmas, right? Because that's what you're coming from. So remembering when people wish me Happy Hanukkah, that's coming from a good place.
Yes.
But also be aware that maybe not everybody is celebrating Saturnalia.
Yeah.
So is there, again, ways to help people, because with the war on Christmas approach, or the people, because it's a stressful time, especially this year. We talked about this earlier about giving each other grace.
Yeah.
Is there a way to help remember, not just this year, but every year, that being mindful and having grace for all, even if the person has one too many gin martinis at the holiday party?
Tricia, you want to start with this one?
Yeah, and I'm not going to address it straight from a religion standpoint. Holiday, and I'll let Jane, you can address that part, because I want to go bigger. Holidays have different meanings for everybody.
For sure.
The holidays to some are very sad and lonely, and having going to a holiday party might not be the solution to make them a happier person. It might actually make it more difficult for that individual. So it goes back to knowing your team members and what is important to the team members. And just, recognizing that, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and I think that's a good point. And I think it's easier at a smaller organization where you can survey the group. But really, that's a tack you should take regardless of the size of your organization, and say, all right, here are our options. What do people prefer? And maybe it is having a variety of ways. Maybe some people want to just do potluck during the workday. Some people might not want to get together outside of work. Some people might not want to get together at all, and provide people with a bunch of different options, and to make sure that you aren't being, Christian centric, certain holiday centric. So you can't have a holiday neutral Christmas tree. Just because you put blue ornaments on it doesn't make it a Hanukkah tree. Right. No, so think about truly with your employee base, like how best to celebrate, and what really are you celebrating? Really what you're celebrating is your community and communion with one another. Or you're celebrating, especially this year that we got through it. I mean, we've been laughing by Thursday afternoon. We're just like, oh my God, just one more day. Thank God we survived. And really, that's it. And we've done, I just think of our firm as a variety of things that we've done this year. So we had earlier this week a birthday celebration, socially distanced on a back patio with space heaters. We've done a similar thing when the weather was warmer outside. I was describing to you, we did a Southern biscuits and gravy Zoom tutorial this morning, and people can choose to participate in what they want. And those worked for our company. Other things work for other people. In January, we all went for a hike in the Arboretum. And, just figure out with your coworkers what feels right, and give people the options to opt in and opt out.
I think that's what I was going to say, that the magic word that I'm hearing is choose.
Yes.
Like if it's a choice, then don't punish them for choosing not to. Don't
even if it's like,
opt out.
You missed out, or posting the pictures of the 5 people that were there, but not the 4 that weren't.
And, speaking, I know this is more from an employer perspective, but speaking for the individuals that might not want to go to that social event, then maybe there's one of your coworkers that are really good in that situation, and just ask them if you can tag along. I know how many years ago, 10 years ago, I hated networking, but my coworker Jane was really good at it. So I'm like, Jane, what time are you going to be there? I'll get there 5 minutes after. To wait for me though.
Really?
Oh my
that's
God.
how we met, Trisha. Is that so? Clearly, she's a good teacher.
Job.
The Padawan became the Jedi.
Well, can you believe it's already been 30 minutes?
We need another 30 minutes, I think.
Right, we haven't even had a Jeff rant about the holiday parties yet. Oh, who you are?
Okay.
I do not, but I'll tell you what I did enjoy.
So maybe just say it, but don't hold your drink up all the way.
All right. So Jane, why don't you start, please?
So thank you, Jeff and Erin, for inviting Tricia and me here today. I'm Jane Clark. I'm CEO and managing partner at Lake Effect HR and Law. We're a blended HR and employment law firm. And we advise our clients on all facets of HR and employment law, and really encourage them to maximize their employees' potential and do it in a very holistic way, incorporating, HR and employment law and everything along the spectrum. And I am drinking a Kettle One and soda in my favorite glass. It's a hand-blown old-fashioned glass, and the soda in it is a cucumber and mint mineral water that I
would drink that just straight.
It's so good, and I get it by the case, and my husband's like, "Didn't you just buy this?" I'm like, "Yeah, but it's gone." So,
How about you, Trisha?
Trisha Perkins. I'm the part of the HR side of Lake Effect HR and Law. So partner closely with the attorneys so we can have a full package here. Because I am between the Madison, the Appleton area, I went with an Oshkosh Brewery, the Bare Bones Hazy IPA, Shar-P'Haze.
Both of you are people, whenever I have questions or my clients have questions, I'm like, have I got the women for you? I've been explaining people like what we have going on today. And I was like, oh, we have Tricia and Jane coming on. And I have previously described you guys as the first people I'd ever have on a podcast, but scheduling made you be our second. And then all week I've been saying they are wicked smart, but a hoot while they're being wicked smart. And so it's always great to work with you guys. How about you, Jeff? You are less of a hoot.
We like you, Jeff.
Well, I like him. I'm just saying. Very few people would describe Jeff Glazer as a hoot. Wicked smart, yes. Hoot, no. That's up in Cedarburg, right? Didn't you say it was aged in something other than our basement?
I'll jump in the car to get a little sample of that. I'll be there in 20 minutes, maybe 30.
And I had a cranberry sauce gin martini with, you can't see it now because we're done, but it had a cute little rosemary sprig to add a little festive thing. And so I had Wisconsin cranberry sauce and State Line Distillery gin. So we have a firm happy hour in 10 minutes. I might make a second one. I fully admit. A Zoom happy hour for those who are worried about masking.
Well, that is a Pinterest-worthy cocktail and glass, Erin.
Thank you.